Radiant Historia is a 2010 role-playing video game developed and published by ALll for the Nintendo DS. The game's development team mostly consists of ALll staff who previously worked on Megami Tensei games like Nocturne, Persona 3 and Strange Journey, as well as the Etrian Odyssey series. The development team also includes other members who had previously worked on Raditra stories. The game was released in Japan on November 3, 2010 and in North America on February 22, 2011. Gameplay Time travel The game gives a unique take on the concept of non-linear branching storylines, which it combines with the concepts of time travel and parallel universes, similar to the games Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. Radiant Historia takes it much further by giving players the freedom to travel backwards and forwards through a timeline to alter the course of history, with each of their choices and actions having a major impact on the timeline. The player can return to certain points in history and live through certain events again to make different choices and see different possible outcomes on the timeline. The player will be using the ability to travel through time and space throughout the game. The player will be changing the past to create a true future, and the game has the player travel through time and space as the player switches between parallel worlds. The game has many possible parallel endings. Combat The enemies are visible on the fields before an engagement and the player may choose to fight or avoid them in open combat. A battle begins when the party comes into contact with the enemies, or if a story event initiates a confrontation. The battle system makes use of a positioning system called the grid system. Enemies are placed on a 3x3 grid, with each enemy standing in a single slot, except for some large enemies spanning multiple slots. If the player attacks an enemy who is in a grid space near the attacking character, the enemy will incur greater damage. However, the player will also be open to greater damage. Some attacks can move enemies around the grid, stacking them on the same slot until a combo ends and consecutive attacks on this group of enemies hit all of them. Despite being a turn-based combat system, each member of the party can switch turns with the others and even with enemies, giving more freedom to the player to perform combos and deal further damage to enemies, but having its risks too, as a party member who switches turns become more vulnerable until becoming able to move again. Plot Setting The game takes place on the continent of Vancouver, a land which had in the past been the seat of a great old empire. However, the old empire had misused the power of flux, creating weapons which drained life out of living things. After some great calamity, the center of the continent was turned into a desert and all the bastions of the old empire reduced to ruins. The last remaining members of the old empire fled north to what became the Kingdom of Granorg, where they were able to temporarily stall the desertification of the rest of the continent. This was accomplished through a ritual only the royal family could perform, where one royal sacrificed another to temporarily stop the desert from advancing. Native to the continent are two races of beastkind, the wiry Satyros, who have a greater connection to the power of flux than humans do, and the Gutrals, who despite being large and reminiscent of great apes, are intelligent and peaceful. When the story starts, the continent is effectively governed by 5 powers. In the north, Granorg is at war with ALll. Granorg has superior numbers, but cannot outright defeat ALll because of the latter's use of Thaumatech, which, among other things, allows ALL's field soldiers to wear suits of mechanical armor. Also on the northern half of the continent is Celestia, the homeland of the Satyros, whose connection to flux which allows them to defend themselves in a way humans cannot match. To the south is Cygnus, a human nation made of outlaws and refugees of the desertification, whose primary defense is the desert itself, which the armies of ALll and Granorg cannot cross in number. Finally, occupying the southeast, in the last wild jungles on the continent, is Forja, homeland of the Gutrals. Story On the continent of Vancouver, a land of man and beasts, the holy nation of the east, ALll is in a state of war with Granorg, a massive country to the west that is ruled harshly by Queen Protea. ALL's land is slowly turning to desert while a strange disease, known as the Sand Plague, is turning its people into sand. The ruler of ALll, the prophet Noah, insists this worldwide disease is the result of Protea's evil government. The people of ALll thus believe they are fighting a holy war against Granorg. One day, Stock and his subordinates, agents with the intelligence agency of ALll, are sent into Granorg territory to rescue a secret agent who was captured by the government of Granorg. After saving the agent, the group find themselves surrounded by the Granorg army, and Stock is severely wounded. He awakens in Historia, a world where time and space are warped. There, two mysterious children, Tio and Lippti, give him the ability to travel through time and space using the power of a book his employer Heise gave him, the White Chronicle. After using this new power to travel through time to avoid defeat, Stock is given a choice: continue working under Heise in the intelligence division, or join his friend Rish's unit within the military. Each choice creates a timeline, and each timeline has its own separate story, which nonetheless relates to the other one. Stock is often forced to move between timelines to acquire skills and information he would not otherwise have access to, in order to avoid disasters, ambushes, or simply to position himself properly to take advantage of his enemies or friends. Under Heise, Stock is sent to Granorg to assassinate Princess Iruka. He only manages to enter the city by pretending to be part of a group of traveling entertainers, most of whom are Satyros, one of the native beastmen races of the continent. Among them are Art, a 9-year-old shaman who, for better or worse, begins idolizing Stock and using her abilities to protect him. Once he arrives in Granorg, he discovers that the princess knew he would be coming, and moreover, had not informed anyone else. Stock learns that Iruka is the de facto leader of the resistance against her stepmother's reign, and is therefore more an asset to ALL's war on Granorg than an enemy. Iruka also reveals that she is the only living descendant of the Empire's rulers, and thus the only person who can perform the ritual to prevent desertification. However, as Queen Protea refuses to allow her to perform the ritual, the world could turn to sand in less than a decade unless Protea is removed from power. Stock refrains from carrying out the assassination, thus securing her support. Oddly enough, he is also aided in this regard by his appearance, which is similar to Iruka's late older brother, Ernst, who was executed by her father for treason. Despite his best intentions, his failure to complete his mission brands him a traitor in ALL, and General Hugo orders his execution. In the other timeline, Stock is assigned to Rish's unit and deployed to protect ALL's mines from enemy sabotage, as well as protect a cavern which is the only route connecting the two mountainous territories of Granorg and ALL, other than a slim valley protected by the oft-traded sand fortress. After successfully defending the mines, Stock and Rish are rewarded by General Hugo with promotions, but he also assigns them to the sand fortress with a platoon of new recruits. ALL's second-in-command, Lieutenant General Raoul, assumes this is to remove any possible future political opponents from the city, as Field Marshal Viola, who also was gaining popularity against Hugo's will, was also assigned there. After defeating the Granorg army in 2 battles, Rish's entire brigade is killed. Stock then discovers a piece of paper proving that the Granorgites were being leaked information from within ALL. Stock returns with the critically wounded Rish to ALL, and, taking the advice of Lieutenant General Raoul, sneaks into Hugo's office to search for evidence of deals with Granorg. He finds a coded note that he believes to show the truth, and promptly flees ALL with Raoul, Rish, and Rish's doctor, Sonia. They arrive in Celestia and learn that Hugo had a secret pact with Protea's advisors, Diaz and Selvan, to eliminate Protea from the throne, annex Granorg, and then conquer the entire continent. Stock convinces Rish to become the commander of Celestia's army, and Celestia prepares for war against Granorg and ALL. In the history created by Stock refusing to leave Heise, Stock finds asylum in the desert nation of Cygnus, and convinces King Garland the Mighty to prepare for war against Granorg. Iruka then takes him to meet the Gutril tribe, who only meet with humans if they bear the sacred beast mark. Stock acquires the mark, and recruits the Gutrils to fight against Granorg. They depose Protea, in doing so obtaining the Etherian, a Granorg treasure that can neutralize a weapon designed under the orders of Hugo that turns its victims to sand. Stock returns to the other timeline, recruits the Gutrils using his beast mark, and enters the annexed Granorg with the Etherian. After defeating the Diaz Knights and reluctantly killing Viola, who chose to remain loyal to ALll because she believed that the death of her, the Valkyrie, would convince its troops to give up their fight, Stock discovers that Hugo has been forced into confession by ALll citizens that Noah was dead the whole time. Stock pursues Hugo to ALll and slays him. In the final chapter of the True History, created by both timelines combining, Hyes invades Granorg's royal hall, where the ritual to stop desertification is performed. Stock confronts him, and Hyes explains that the sacrificial victims of the ritual are royals who were killed by their own family, and brought back to life by giving them part of their sibling's soul. During the ritual, the sacrifice dies again, and the half of a soul returns to its original body, stabilizing the mana of the continent, and thus slowing desertification, in the process. Stock is, Hyes explains, Iruka's late brother Ernst, who was executed by his father King Victor for treason, given a part of a soul by Iruka for use in the ritual, and then captured by Hyes, who was Victor's brother and an intended sacrifice himself, and had his memories modified so he'd live the life of Stock. Hyes believes that the suffering of the royal family, which he has seen as a sacrifice, and thus a wielder of the Black Chronicle, is caused by their attempts to protect a world that is not worth saving. He plans to recruit Stock to his side, leaving Iruka as the only living member of the royal family without any sacrifices to use, but Stock refuses. Hyes then attempts to absorb enough souls to hasten desertification enough to destroy the world altogether, so sacrifices will no longer be necessary. He fails, and uses the Black Chronicle to take the party to Historia, which, along with the Chronicles, was created with the intention of enlightening sacrifices, resulting in the ritual being more effective. He then consumes the suffering of all past sacrifices, and becomes the monster Apocrypha, which is destroyed by Stock and his allies. If the player has not done sufficient side quests, the game ends with Stock being sacrificed by Iruka to prevent the desertification. However, it is possible to unlock a better ending, in which the player can see the major characters continuing to live out their lives. Most notably, Rainey promises to wait for Stock to return, Viola survives her wounds and is cured of an illness she became afflicted with on the front lines, and Rish and Sonya are married, and encounter the soldiers in Rish's brigade, whom they thought all dead. One of the soldiers explains a man who is implied to be Stock rescued them. Hyes and Stock wait in Historia during this ideal ending, and Hyes forcibly sacrifices himself instead of Stock, seeing the difference Stock made to the lives of the characters affected by the aforementioned side quests, and realizing the world is worth saving. Stock then returns to the real world. Characters Stock is a 19-year-old agent who is the pride of the Special Intelligence Agency of the nation of ALll and the main protagonist of the game. Because of his outstanding talents, he is often entrusted with the most dangerous missions. Although he appears to be unsociable, stoic and often quiet, Stock is actually very passionate and caring about his subordinates. He would avoid endangering them more than anything else. During his mission to rescue a fellow agent who was fleeing the Granorg military, Stock's team was surrounded and severely wounded. He later awoke in Historia and was given, by a pair of mysterious children, the ability to travel through time and space. Rainey is a 17-year-old female agent with the intelligence agency of the nation of ALll, and Stock's subordinate. Rainey was once a refugee from the desertification. She moved with her parents to Cygnus, but was nonetheless orphaned at a young age. Originally a member of a mercenary group with Marco, Rainey was recruited by Hyes after her group was destroyed. She felt indebted to Hyes, and upon his request became Stock's subordinate. Rainey is a straightforward person with a strong sense of justice and can be quite honest at times. She excels in the art of spear fighting. Marco is a 17-year-old male agent with the intelligence agency of the nation of ALll and Stock's subordinate. He has known Rainey since their days as mercenaries, and the two make a rough combination. Along with Rainey, he was recruited into the intelligence agency by Hyes after their mercenary group was destroyed. Marco is very realistic and careful at whatever he does, traits that make him a good partner. He is also skilled with sword fighting. Rush is a 21-year-old military officer and the captain of ALll's Recruit Corporation. He is Stock's best friend from the time that the two used to fight side by side before Stock joined the Special Intelligence Agency. Rush always cares about Stock and offers him advice. Rush was severely injured in the past and has had to replace one of his arms with a mechanical prosthetic, called a gauntlet, that makes use of ALll's Thaumatech technology and moves according to his thoughts. Rush is open-hearted and, although stubborn, he is very forgiving. Like Rainey, his weapon of choice is a spear. Iruka is the Princess of Granorg and is the first heir to the throne. She is the late King Victor's daughter with his first wife. Iruka is regarded highly by the people of Granorg as opposed to her stepmother, Queen Protea. Iruka is saddened by her stepmother's tyranny. Her distinguishing trait is her beautiful blonde curls. Her weapon of choice is a pistol. Art is a 9-year-old Cytyros. She traveled through many places as a member of a group of entertainers led by Vanos. Although Art is not fully aware of it herself, she is a shaman of the Cytyros. Art is sometimes selfish like most children her age, and as she is very fond of Stock, she tends to stubbornly refuse to leave his side. Her weapon of choice is a dagger. Gufka is a powerful Gutra warrior from Forja village. After being exiled from his tribe, Gufka lived in Celestia before joining Stock's party. He fights with his fists. ALll is the head of the Special Intelligence Agency of the nation of ALll. A smart and meticulous man who handles everything in a calm and collected manner, Hayes is cautious and calculating, and also appears to be cruel at times. As a newly created organization, Hayes Intelligence Agency is not formally recognized by ALll's government, and is instead regarded merely as a facility. However, the agency has supplied the government with much critically useful information. He was the one who gave Stock the White Chronicle. Sonia is a doctor of the nation of ALll, and is the central figure in its medical sector. Sonia has been studying mana for a long time and is also very knowledgeable about Thaumatech technology. Sonia is friends with Stock and Rush. Although she did not have to, Sonia has always been on the front line with Stock and Rush, secretly looking after the two as they went on dangerous missions. Sonia has a mature and strong personality. Keel is a non-commissioned officer of Rush's Recruit Corporation. Rush often tells Keel how much he respected Stock as a great fencer, which eventually leads Keel to respect Stock also. Keel is very honest and has a positive nature, but often gets ahead of himself. Although good at ceremonial sword dancing, Keel himself is not combat-oriented. Hugo is ALll's commander-in-chief. He is known for passing the words of ALll's supreme leader, Prophet Noah, to the people, after he stopped appearing to the public in person, years before. A man known for being very aggressive in politics, always scheming against those who can pose as a threat to his position. Raoul is ALll general in ALll's military and Rush's superior. A man known as a brilliant strategist, but likes to keep himself from the public because of Hugo's political schemes. Viola is field marshal of ALll's military, known as the Valkyrie. Seen as a heroine by the people, she was relocated by Hugo to the border outpost of San Fortress in order to keep her out of the capital in fear of her popularity. Fennel is ALll's lead Thaumatech developer, and the brains behind the country's technological superiority. Granorg, Protea is the queen of the massive nation of Granorg who is known for her selfishness and tyranny throughout the land. She was originally a commoner until the late King Victor married her. After King Victor's assassination, Protea succeeded the throne to become queen. She is accused by ALll's General Hugo to be what the prophet Noah sees as the cause of the world's desertification and the mysterious Sand Plague. She is Princess Iruka's stepmother. Selvin is the leader of the Granorg Assembly, and essentially Prime Minister of Granorg. While ostensibly working for the Queen, he is, in actuality, the de facto ruler of the country. Diaz is the court knight of Granorg, general of its armies and Selvin's close friend. He is a brilliant battlefield commander and a devious opponent. Historia, Tio and Lippti are the mysterious twin Stock encounters in Historia. They give him the ability to travel through time and space and tell him the world is in need of his power. Although they appear to be young, TO and LIPPTI's wisdom suggests otherwise. Development and release. A Japanese trademark for the game's name was known to have existed as far back as March 2010. At that point, nothing was known about the game except its name. It was not until July 2010 that an issue of Famitsu revealed it to be a role-playing game for the Nintendo DS that involved time travel. It was later revealed to involve many staff members who have worked on the Shin Megami Tensei series, and former members of Tri-Ace from the company Headlock, who have been previously cited for working on the similarly named Radiatra stories. Audio. The music of Radiant Historia is composed by Yoko Shimomura, who is best known for her works for Super Mario RPG, Legend of Mana and the Kingdom Hearts series. The ending theme Historia is sung by Haruka Shimozuki. Reception. Radiant Historia received favorable reviews according to video game review aggregator Metacritic. Jason Schreier of Wired gave the game a score of 9 out of 10 stars and concluded, "Atlus has created the perfect blend of innovation and tradition." Matt Peckham of PC World praised the game's non-linear multi-dimensional concept, which allows the game to be played differently by traveling to a decision point and choosing another path, in contrast to BioWare-style headpads, where whatever you choose, the game plays out more or less as it would have anyway. The non-linear time travel system of Radiant Historia has been compared to later RPGs such as the PlayStation Portable version of Tactics Ogre, Let Us Cling Together and Final Fantasy XIII-2. In IGN's Best of 2011 awards, the game was nominated for the Best 3DS DS Story, and Best 3DS DS Role-Playing Game awards. Nintendo Life gave it an honorable mention for the Game of the Year award. RPGFAN gave it the Best Traditional RPG award, while editor Neil Chandran chose it as his pick for the Best RPG award. Game Informer gave it the Best Old School Homage award. Samantha Nelson of the AV Club chose it as her staff pick for Game of the Year. Rook Gamer chose the game as third place for the RPG of the Year award. On February 10, 2012, Atlus announced via the Atlus Faithful newsletter that due to exceptional demand, Radiant Historia will see a reprint, which was available in late March of the same year. Game director Mitsuru Harata stated on Twitter that he hopes to produce a sequel to the game in the future. References. External links. Official website, Radiant Historia at Moby Games.